I guess just real quick general stuff for those listening. I said Cooper's a friend of mine since high school. He's always been one of my go-to people to help me out with like my short films and other projects I've had. I probably owe him collectively more gas money than I owe anybody anything in the whole world. The last shoot that we went on, it hasn't been released yet, but I was literally like, hey, can you drive 40 minutes out to where I live so we can borrow your car, run you over with your car, and then drive 40 minutes back so we can stuff you in a garbage bag. And then on top of that, you're going to accidentally get stung by bees. So.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I did get stung in the lip. I had totally forgotten about that. Just bee came out of nowhere and was like, fuck this guy.
Exactly. So I do owe you a lot of thanks for always putting up with that bullshit.
Oh, it's perfectly fine.
So, some other stuff that, because kind of like the theme that I've been going with is like interviewing or talking with people who are like creatively involved in like a wide range, just primarily video production, but it has been a little bit of a wide range with some other hobbies that people have gotten into. And one thing I know you really like to do is write, and you've been trying to get into voice acting. So, talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. The writing is writing. Yeah, I'm always looking to improve my work. I'll have people like read over what I write, but it doesn't help that I'm hypercritical of my own work.
I think everybody who does anything creative is always like, "Oh, this is shit."
Yeah. So I've just been like writing on and off ideas for books I have, ideas for movies, trying to ideas for how I would do an adaptation of something. Just
what
here
are some
and there.
What are some examples of that? Like your redos of your own adaptation, because that's one thing that I was considering adding as like a segment once we get into territory where I start to repeat guests or whatever, is an idea of like, let's take a bad movie and like see how these creative people would try and remake it. So like what's an example of something that you would want to try and remake?
Remake, I would probably want to do
or at least change. Like, if like, are you talking from the perspective of like we had like there's this shitty movie and we're gonna remake it and have it be better, or are you working under the idea of like, let's pretend this never existed and let's make the better version, the hypothetical better? Like, what is your starting point there?
A lot of the time it's just different interpretations of movies. Like, I had an idea for a Reanimator. You know, not connected with the first one. The first Reanimator movie, and just the first one, is a classic, you know, cult horror movie. It's a fantastic campy little movie. But the way I would want to do it is a little bit, I don't want to say grounded, because a lot of stuff like that you can ground it to a point,
right?
But give it more of a horror feel, not like a full-on horror movie. Horror movie nowadays are just not great. You know, go for that long, slow build-up of tension and fear.
Right. Which I think one of the movies we'll talk about did a really good job of that, especially within that sort of Lovecraftian environment that you and I like to talk about.
Yeah.
So then, do you want to talk a little bit about your voice acting? Because I know that's one thing that you're really passionate about.
Yeah, I've been practicing voice acting for the last 2-3 years, and I've always wanted to get into it because I've always wanted to do like for some form of entertainment like that. Be it make stupid YouTube videos, make it voice acting, actual acting if I can make it. But I've always wanted to do something that entertains people.
Yeah.
And it's just been a calling, so all I've been doing recently is just practicing and looking for jobs.
Yeah, and it is tough, because I kind of very briefly at one point I considered, oh yeah, that might be a fun thing to do on a whim, but it is a pretty difficult thing to try and get into and be taken seriously about it.
Yeah.
What are some have you been like, I know we've talked about this a few times, but have you like have you done anything major, or has it just kind of been like I've just been like honing my reel for the past 2-3 years?
I haven't actually made a reel. I've just been kind of honing my voice,
Well,
and
yeah, but like, have you been in like, have you like done a video game or like anything like that? I know you do, like you have a YouTube channel that you do stuff with sometimes, but have you like been involved with another project,
um, I tried.
or is it just kind of like a shotgun, like let's send it all out and see who's interested?
I've done like commercials here and there.
Hmm.
It's like small stuff, but for the
Gotcha.
most part, I'll send something out and see what I get, or apply uh, on a couple different websites. Uh, One of my family members, they know I want to do this, and so they sent me a article to a website, kind of talking about how to get into like doing audiobooks,
Hmm.
and I think that's something I'm gonna go with
Yeah. That
when I get everything I need to set up, because my thing I use to record my videos is down.
hmm. Yeah. It is. That's one thing that is always a pain. Uh, like, I mean, like I always tell people to try and not get too bogged down with like making sure you have like the nicest newest thing, but I mean, like, you do kind of have to have a good starting off point for some cases, especially with voice acting, because sound is such a huge overlooked thing in a lot of different mediums. If the sound's not good, then it's just not like it automatically takes you out of the experience, I feel like. So one thing that I ask everyone who's on, regardless of how into like the field of like media or like production and all that, it since this is a movie podcast, the one of the go-to questions I always ask is, what is your favorite movie or movies?
Oh, that's a fucking tough one. I've you've always got the cliched ones. I really like Steven Kubrick stuff. 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Steven Kubrick.
Yes, Steven Kubrick.
You're Stanley Kubrick.
Yeah, I don't.
No, well, I know you just woke up a little while ago. That's okay. We'll brush it off.
Night Shift, boy.
Night shift for life. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah. So what are some of your favorite Kubricks?
2001: A Space Odyssey,
Hmm.
and probably The Shining.
Yeah. I'd say, yeah, those are probably
It's
two of my favorites too.
it's the slow build of tension that I like. It's not like
Hmm.
in your face kind of like. I wouldn't say any of his stuff is like scares, but it's that in your face, or
Yeah.
not in your face, but it's like in the background. You know something's coming. You
Hmm.
don't know where, and you don't know what.
Yeah.
Um,
That's one thing that he's really good at, is building a really, regardless of it's horror or not, he's good at creating a really solid atmosphere.
yeah.
So what are some other go-tos for you?
Other go-tos. I really like Lord of the Rings.
Hmm.
I remember watching them in theaters when they came out when I was a younger kid, and I was already infatuated with fantasy at that point, but I just adore Peter Jackson's style,
Hmm.
and the music was fantastic as well.
Yeah, I think one of the only like nerdy movie series to actually like win at the Oscars. I think I think each of those were nominated at the very least, and I think Return of the King won that year that it came out.
Oh, Return of the King won like, 4 or 5 things.
Yeah. So those are kind of like that's your, like, if anyone's like, oh man, Cooper, what should I got 2 hours to kill, what should I watch? Like, those are some of the ones you're gonna go to.
Oh yeah, I have a list of movies. If someone's like, what do they want to watch? And I'm like, well, narrow it down. Do you want to watch like old '80s action movies? Because there's a couple great ones. You've got
Hmm.
stuff like Cobra. You've got, Die Hard. Well, not Rainbow so much. That's
First
not
Blood
really it.
Part Two.
Yeah, part two is the more cheesy one. Part one is
The serious character study.
yeah, is a lot more serious.
Hmm. I don't know. I kind of find myself enjoying the first one a little bit more than the more actiony ones. Like, I don't. It's just something about like it's Stallone. Even he said in like the commentary for the first Rambo, he was like, "This is a weird remake of like the Frankenstein story almost."
Yeah,
Like,
and he's right. It is kind of a Frankenstein.
yeah, and like the whole idea of like coming back and like nobody really like wants anything to do with you, and like you don't know what your place is, and no one wants you around. Like the whole kind of like outsider, kind of the extreme social distancing example.
Yeah.
So that's fair enough. So yeah, if anyone
If
has any recommendations, or if anyone needs any recommendations, just hit up Couper Godleski, and he'll whip out his amazing list of of genres for you to check out.
I mean, yeah. I mean, if you want to go to like another one, and another, I guess a director I left out. That's probably one of my favorites. Is John Carpenter.
Yeah. We've talked about him a lot on this
I
show.
mean, between fucking The Thing and I'm forgetting the name of the movie with Michael Myers.
Halloween.
Yeah, Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
First Halloween. His soundtrack to that is fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever seen videos of him? Because he's also like a musician. Like, I mean, that's kind of how he got into like scoring his own movies and stuff. Is he was in like a band when he was younger, and he was always kind of like involved with music. But like he does this thing nowadays where he'll do like concerts where he'll play excerpts of like scores from his movies, but like performed with like a band, and he's like on the lead with like this like huge keyboard synthesizer and all that. And it's all it just is. It's a weird, amazing experience. Or at least I've seen from video. I haven't been fortunate enough to see one of his shows. I did get the chance to meet him though, and that was kind of crazy. He's he's very sarcastic and laid back in real life, which is kind of a weird like not what you'd associate like a master of modern horror with. But he was cool. So yeah, those are your like go-to Carpenters, or do you just kind of like everything he does?
Those are my two go-to, but I do like just about everything he does.
I think that because he always says that the Thing is like, I think the one that aside from Halloween is definitely the one that he's most universally known for. Like, people who aren't really fans of movies can still be like, oh yeah, I know Halloween, or like, I know Michael Myers. But I feel like among people who like really enjoy movies and really enjoy horror films, especially, The Thing is kind of revered as like his best overall amazing thing. But the other two movies that he has in that sort of like that trilogy that he has of apocalypse movies, where it's like The Thing, In the Mouth of Madness, and Prince of Darkness, I think those are three really solid movies as well.
Well, speaking of the subject of the movie we'll be talking about, Color Out of Space, I would say The Mouth of Madness is the closest thing you can get to a Lovecraft story without it being written by Lovecraft.
Yeah, it's a great one. There's parts of it I think that are a little bit like weird and cheesy, but I think overall it's a really, really great movie.
Oh yeah, definitely.